Everyone dreams about living an uncommon life, but how we define that dream is very different for each of us. And for most, it's a lifelong pursuit. Welcome to the Uncommon Life Project podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living that life or enjoying the journey to get there. We're going to also give you some tools, tricks, and tips for starting or accelerating your own efforts to live an uncommon life, a life worth celebrating and savoring. Please welcome your hosts, Brian Dewhurst and Phillip Ramsey.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Uncommon Life Project, where I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey.
And I am Brian Dewhurst.
I'm starting the clock right now. 25 minutes. We've got a lot. Yeah, we've got a fun topic today. It's just a duocast between yours truly and the Brian Dewhurst. We get to talk about just mindset every day with our clients. Every day we get to sit down with somebody and really try to figure out what their unique gifting is. And when we do that, then it seems like the planning process gets way more fun for every party involved. For sure. Us, for them, for sure. I can't tell you how many times we've had people cry in front of us just because tears of joy, I would say, that someone actually heard them and then they have a path forward going on to the next level. And then really having tangible things to do in order to live kind of the life they want to live. Mm-hmm. So today we thought we'd talk about mindset. And there is I'd say biblical parable, but it is a great, I think, illustration to show and prove a point that we're trying to make. So Brian, let's talk about it. And then let's move on to kind of diving in each one of those and where we see it, because we see all three of these individuals. We're going to talk about a career and just bricklayers. Mm-hmm. We also have, we've mentioned this in our book, but it is a great parable just to think about mindset and where you're at currently. So Brian, I'll let you walk through that.
Yeah. So I think this is like wisdom concentrate. If you think of like orange concentrate, how your mom used to make orange juice.
Yes.
This is like wisdom concentrate. And I think we meet with a lot of people and we hear like, well, I met with this other advisor and they just weren't listening to me. And I think this illustration in a very short, succinct thing of the bricklayers really puts you into one camp really quickly. So the bricklayers is a way of highlighting the same job, but the mindset that you bring to that job.
Yes.
And so the first bricklayer is more what we would kind of classify as kind of like just a laborer. And the mindset that he brings to that is just one of drudgery. I hate this.
Well, first, I want to just break down. Here's the story. Okay. A guy walks up to some bricklayers. They're doing a building and he walks up to the first bricklayer and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the guy's like, "I'm doing a job. What does it look like I'm doing?" Like, okay, great. Walks up to the second bricklayer like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Making a living." Great. Walks up to the third person. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm building a cathedral for God's people. It's amazing." And so those are the three mindsets as you start walking through. Now let's dive into each one of them. Sorry to interrupt, but that's great. The parable.
Yeah, that's a great way to lay it out. Sorry, I always go to the technical aspect. And we're moving on. Missed it. Okay, great.
No, that's honestly I think that does highlight how different Brian and I are. And that's a complete asset when we work with our clients. So
the first guy is just drudgery and, doesn't want to be doing this, but, needs to make money and needs cash flow. And it's just a job and he's not emotionally invested in it. He's not doing it out of love or joy, but out of necessity. And the difference really between, I think, 1 and 2 is the mindset of, this is necessary. I have to do it. But he doesn't have that level of integrity and character with the job. It's just like a paycheck. I don't care. I'm just doing this.
Yeah. Let's just think about this from like a different perspective. So let's think about the first bricklayer. We'll just call him bricklayer number 1. Drudgery. I don't know if we're going to call him that, but I think about in the morning for him, waking up and like, what is his attitude for the rest of the day? I mean, brutal.
And he's not fun to be around.
He's not. He's and
you know who these people are in your life. I'm serious.
Might be one of them.
And it's not to judge other people, but it's to say, you're not in a good place. Like, how do we get you to a better place? And we talk about this in the book, but then I want to look at it as, okay, now let's look at this as a very simple, analogy or illustration. What is the financial advice that we should give this guy if he's meeting with an advisor? Is it to put all of your money, excess capital, into a 401k or retirement plan? And especially if this guy's, 18 to 22, 25, we hear all the time, we meet with young people and it's like, well, I met with another advisor and they want me to put all my money in a Roth IRA or, in an account or instrument that like totally locks up all their money. And it's just like, you're not in a place to build wealth if you're guy number one.
Yeah. Please don't do that, by the way.
Please don't do that. Like, you should be focused on a budget and a budget and a budget, and then saving your money and not going into debt and building a reserve or a capital fund, as we like to call it, so that you don't have to be stuck in this job.
So good point. And I love that point, because here's the deal. At the end of the day, the truth is that job is not sustainable for him.
Not sustainable. It
just isn't. So when he hits this realization of like, this job isn't sustainable, what is he going to need? Cash. He's going to have to figure out what that is. And he's going to need cash to do that. So that's why we would always advise, I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, we would advise, please don't put it in the 401k. I don't care if they're matching 100%. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Because
if you've got nothing in the bank,
yeah,
or you're using a credit card or, those things. And so it's just like, yeah, you need to get, in this day and age, we're in 2020. I mean, if you're a young person or if you're an older person, I guess it doesn't matter, but you want to get married, have kids, have 2 cars in the garage and a house.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to put $50K away. There's just no way around it.
If that individual is married, has kids, that's almost even worse. Like, think about the home life there.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a struggle for sure.
Struggle bus.
We spend a lot of time at our vocation, at our job.
Yeah.
For this person, it's a job and a necessary evil. Like, when you walk up, I'm doing a job. What's it look like I'm doing? Like, okay, great. I'm moving on.
And we've met with these people, and they oftentimes do know what they want to do, but the path to get there is very unclear. And so I guess our advice to that person would be budget, save, no credit card debt, really lock in the intentionality of that paycheck and using that to a higher purpose. And then saving the excess so that you have cash reserves to make a change, and that's either a different career, and it'd be hard to advise someone to start their own business from that perspective too, because their cash flow is probably not that strong.
Not even
their reserves aren't that strong and their mindset's not there.
The mindset isn't there. Like, that, I think, is the biggest thing. But you're probably right on the reserve and the cash flow. You're probably right.
Yeah.
But we've talked to even surgeons that have like, I don't know. I'm doing a job. Like, okay, all right. Like, so it's the cash flow and reserves might not be the issue, but is their mindset there?
Yeah.
It's just something to think through. And I really do like walking through, okay, what advice would we give those people? That's brilliant. You talked about that. And then how can you kind of move forward? And that's why we would say, what is your number you need every month? And once you understand that, then we can figure out a plan that you kind of get excited about, that you would start thinking, I'm building a cathedral. So, okay.
Let's go to number 2, the second bricklayer.
Making a living.
So this guy is doing the deal. He's doing the bricks. I would view this maybe more as like, I don't know, I'm not trying to like typecast people, but maybe like a manager, like somebody who's been in it for a while. They did bricklaying. They've maybe been promoted. They're making good money, but it's a job. Like, they're not like, we're changing the world here, but it's just, they're not mailing it in either, where they're not doing a good job. Like, they have a level of integrity and character in their job and profession that they're bringing to this, but they're not changing the world either. And so that's kind of where I just kind of feel like, maybe you've plateaued at some sort of manager, you're managing a bunch of bricklayers, that type of thing. Anyways, we don't need to get too in depth in that, but I think the 2 major things is, 1, the cash flow is probably stronger than the first bricklayer. And then 2, there's a level of integrity or character that they're bringing to this, and, professionalism.
Even if the cash flow is the exact same as bricklayer number 1, here's where I think is the difference. I think they're being purposeful and they've figured out a budget. They know what they need to make, and they're being purposeful with the excess. That's where I think making a living people are, or the bricklayers.
Yeah.
It's like, this
They're
is
making it
kind of
work.
a means to an end for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the end to me isn't retirement for these people, but they might just not have talked to us yet.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But they might not have, they don't have a plan quite yet, but they do know that they're doing something that feels good to them. They might be getting out of debt, which is always never a bad answer. They might be providing for their family. Their wife might stay home or whatever. Like, there is something that, like, yeah, like somebody says, hey, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm a bricklayer, and I mean, it's okay. It's kind of like that kind of meh, but it's not passionate and excited about it. And so what advice would we give these people?
So the advice we would give the second bricklayer is, I think, like you made the distinction, they've got a budget, they're purposeful with their money, they've saved, they probably have money in a retirement plan, they probably have money in the bank.
They can go on a trip or two.
They can go on trips, And so I think it's that distinction between, I go back to the Jumanji drumbeat, and that's kind of where we'll go maybe for the third bricklayer, but is there something inside of you that you can't ignore, and that's kind of the people, I guess, that we're attracting with our message is they have that drumbeat inside of them. There's something they've always wanted to do, and it's kind of to a fever pitch where they can't ignore it anymore. And they've probably plateaued in their professional career, and they've plateaued really from a mindset standpoint, and they're really just not challenged in life, I would say. And they're missing that excitement. They want to do something different, but it's scary. Or it's fearful.
They might even feel like this vocation that they're in is amazing and great and fine, but they're doing it for somebody else, and they feel a little bit like, maybe I could do this for myself.
A lot of those people.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. So whatever it is, there's something inside of you that it's just not right in your heart. And you want to make a change, and you're not quite sure how to make that change. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really where, then we look at, okay, this person's probably in their mid 30s to mid 40s, maybe mid 50s. They've saved money for retirement. What would it take? What is it? Helping them walk through, what is it that you want to do or would do? And like you're saying, in a lot of cases, it's a small pivot. It's the, person running a gym that is working for somebody else is like, I could just do this for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting what I was promised, those types of things. And, using the way God's gifted them and the resources that they have to start a foundation to own and control their destiny from here on out.
I think
those are the kind of shifts that we're seeing.
Yep. I think these people, I just want to categorize them as the golden handcuffs. Honestly, It's not enough for them. There's not enough tension or frustration to do something big and drastic. They know if they keep mailing it in for the next 30 years, they'll be fine, or 20 years or 10 years. It's the golden handcuffs. Like, they're not going to probably make a change. There is something inside of them. And so they're going to wait till retirement to get it done. Like, these are the people that, like, I love working with, because at least we can be really purposeful with the dollars that they're saving to get to the where they need to go. And the passion is there, and they are building cathedrals, whether or not it's in the same industry or not. Even when you're working at a golden handcuffs job, but you're working on your passion on the side, the excitement level of the golden handcuffs job gets really, like, crystal clear. And that paycheck is being very strategic in that, working towards your passion. And your passion isn't necessarily for Brian and I, save it in a retirement account and wait till you're 59 and a half. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is using an account or something on the side, even starting writing blogs for your food blog, or for your foodiness and how you're going out to restaurants, starting something that you're getting excited about. Like, there's something on the side that really is exciting.
Totally. I was just reading an article the other day from a guy who made a great point. He's like, this is the best time in the history of the world to, like, start documenting, your uniqueness, your niche in the world, and carve out your space on the internet, because, the internet lets you find the 10,000 people that are like you. And it lays the groundwork to connect you to those people, to have a base, to have an audience, to have friendships. I love that idea of like, this isn't about networking. It's about actually building authentic relationships.
Yeah.
And when you're doing what you love, you're not trying to network. You're trying to connect with people that actually share the same goals and same values and same passions that you do, so that you can experience life together and share life together. And so I thought that was just really refreshing when we get all this stuff of like how to increase your sales and all this.
Stop the madness. Yeah. So I really do think you don't even need to know what the next step is. You just need to know what you really want retirement to look like, or your passion to look like. What is your passion?
Yeah.
That's what those people need to know. Then you talk to the people around you. You surround yourself with people who can help you work up to that and work into that. So that's what I would say for the old golden handcuffs, making a living.
Bricklayer number 2.
Yep. Let's go to bricklayer number 3. The building a cathedral. One, I just want to quickly focus on how attractive that is. Like as you're walking down the line of bricklayers, bricklayer number 1, I'm just freaking doing a job. What does it look like? Okay, moving on. Thanks. Bricklayer number 2, like I'm making a living. Like tell me about your family is basically what I would ask him there. The third one is I'm making a cathedral. Now I want to sit down with this man. I want to hear about his life. I want to hear about what got him there. I want to hear about every brick that he's laying. Like, what is his, like, he's attractive, right? Like there's something about him that you want to get to know, because there's not a lot of people out there that have really found and they're getting paid for their passion.
Totally.
Whether or not let's just say they're all getting paid the same. That third person is getting paid exponentially because he's doing something that he feels purposeful, and he's doing something for somebody else. It's really powerful. So that's what I'll say about that one first.
Well, I think, when I first heard this illustration of the bricklayers, I kind of thought about it in 2 different ways. First is kind of the way you're describing, like if the 3 guys are kind of on a line, and I'm like in Venice, some, city like that. It's just ornate, there's just stones everywhere. It's like, how do they do this? Oh my God. And I'm not good with my hands, by the way. So maybe should caveat this. But anyways, it's just all shocking to me how they did that stuff. But, 3 guys on the same line, like you're saying, they're each maybe similar ages, similar pay or wages, and they do have 3 different mindsets. And so, obviously the distinction in that area is very apparent. If they're at the, local bar or tavern after work and you're talking to 3 different ones, those 3 conversations are going to be very different. And you're right, you're going to gravitate to the guy, the last one, the third bricklayer, who's just, passionate, like, oh, I got to lay 1,000 bricks today. And they were awesome. They were perfect. And in 3 weeks, you won't even believe what you're going to see in front of you. And this building's done, that type of person. Then I kind of thought about it in the distinction of, the first bricklayer is probably on the front lines building, laying the bricks. The second guy is maybe more of that, site manager type role, overseeing 10 to 15 bricklayers. And then the third guy is the guy with the blueprints, the visionary, the guy who owns the business. And he's the one that, is checking at a high level on all the different aspects of the project. But doesn't ever see himself maybe retiring, because this is like, why would I quit this? I get to do this for a living. I get to build cathedrals and, let thousands and tens of thousands of people walk through for 300 to 400 years. And you see that level of craftsmanship and artisanship, when you look at those buildings, and they had to have that level of passion to build stuff like that could stand the test of time. And so I kind of thought about it in those 2 distinctions. And so I think, the advice for that guy, let's just say they're on the line together, that third guy, if that has that mindset, he's probably the protege that could take over the business from the business owner, right? Or that doesn't go that way and he starts his own company or does something out on his own later, but he's squirreling away money and savings, not going into credit card debt, and he's super purposeful because he has a vision and a passion that drives him to inform his decisions. Or if it is the current business owner, then it's about, how does that guy build wealth? How does he co-invest in the buildings that he's building so that he gets rent on the back end and builds out multiple revenue streams, as opposed to just getting paid to lay the bricks.
Yeah, but he's found what he loves. Exactly. And then now we need to start bolting on ways to make it more efficient. I shouldn't say, maybe he's getting absolutely smoked with taxes. All right, let's put it in a retirement account. I'd say minimize your taxes. But other than that, like how is other ways we can bolt on other things of your business to make it more profitable?
I think a great example of this is like Chip and Joanna Gaines, because I mean, I think their passion and integrity and character come through their business so well. And now what they're able to get into, you know, it went from like they were doing some flips and doing rental properties on the side, and then, you know, doing these custom home rebuilds, and then their show, and then the books. And now she's got paint and linens and magazines. And I think they just got into hotels. And just think how many different ways they're able to monetize that passion, all from a point of character and integrity, you know, doing authentic things. So they haven't strayed from that, and that's what makes it work. But now, because they have doubled down on that Magnolia brand and that lifestyle, the ways they're able to monetize the different channels and different things within their business and brand is just incredible. And I think that's what we're talking about. Is so much of financial planning seems so one-dimensional of like, no, we need all of your money. We need all of your excess money, and we're going to put it into all these different accounts that are really investing in the same thing. And that's the stock market.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to say is like, if you do have that passion and if you do have the vision to be that third bricklayer, no matter where you're at, if you're on the front line and you're just getting started, or if you're the seasoned guy and you've been doing it for 20 years, and you're starting to think about, man, I can't do this forever. What's my exit strategy with this thing? That's what we're talking about, is like, how do you monetize that passion in different ways so that you can build wealth really 2-3 times faster than just putting all your money into the stock market? And that might be a sleep, but not the whole thing.
Yeah. And so here is another avenue about this. Who would you want to be selling your bricklaying business? Bricklayer number 1, 2, or 3? I'm telling you right now, if you had bricklayer number 3 selling your business, you are selling a truckload of services, because he gets to truly tell you about his passion. There is no selling involved other than I want him on my crew. Like, I want you to be building my cathedral over here, over like next week, when you're done over here. So
I'll wait.
I'll wait, because it's that good. He's that passionate about it. So I think there is something about that. Hearing somebody and how passionate they are about what they're doing is so attractive. You want them to be on your team or building something for you. So there's that. Then I would also challenge that third bricklayer to be like, okay, who are you pouring into? Who poured into you, and who are you pouring into? Because you didn't just get here by waking up one morning. Yeah, somebody was intentional with you. And that passion you can now pour into somebody else. Who is that? And who are you mentoring? Who are you apprentice? Who's your apprentice, or who are you discipling underneath you? I think there is that component too, where you can still challenge these people to think deeper about their intentionality of where they're at and help other people get there too. So that would be kind of my challenge for that third bricklayer.
I just had one other too. I mean, as I look at it, as we're building a company and a culture and expanding out between, you know, beyond the two of us. And, you know, you just think about an organization as that third bricklayer and that leadership component. And I think, you know, you see companies that create an environment where those younger bricklayers, or the 1 and 2 bricklayers, they're cultivating what is inside those bricklayers. It might not be the same path that we went on, but if I can help you achieve, you know, your passion and perfect space, there's value in that to me, not only professionally, but also, you know, as a colleague and as a mentor. And I think some of those companies, you know, like Google's done an amazing job of just letting people create inside of Google. And that's what drove a lot of their new products. Facebook actually is very similar with their ability to branch out into other social media engines, and now virtual reality and things like that. And we can say whatever we want about those companies, but they had a culture that cultivated the gifts and talents of lots of people, and not just saying you need to be this type of person because this is what we value here. They saw value in lots of different people's passions and visions and create an environment where those are cultivated. And so I think there's just so many facets to this illustration of the bricklayers that can be flushed out from this conversation. But I think at the core, it just helps really distill in less than 5 minutes, where are you? Where are you truly? And be honest with yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Two things that I would say about that. Being honest with yourself when you are going into a job interview. Does this interview or does this job really reflect who I am? Mm-hmm. Do this for me and yourself. Be honest. Be honest for your future employer, for you. You want to create someplace where it is your unique gifting, and that job description is me. If you haven't interviewed for that job, you need to, because that will come off in the interview. Guys, give me a shot at this. This is what I love to do. I'll tell you about my last bricklaying opportunity. What? You're in. And so that's one thing. And you got to be honest with yourself. And then where are you, right? So let's say you are number one, drudgery. Think about that from your employer's perspective. Let's say you do have a complaint. Let's say you do have a frustration and you go to them and you're in that drudgery doing a job phase. I'm not really hearing you that well. And that's probably my fault. So I probably need to do some if I'm the owner. But bricklayer too, you're making a living. Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit more weight on that. But the third person come to me, I'm really listening now, because the value that they create for my business and their expertise, I want to hear more about it. And so there's a lot to this illustration parable, I would say. And like Brian said, where are you? And what is it that you're trying to achieve? And who's helping you achieve those things? And who's challenging you of where are you? Brian and I, we don't really talk about this in I'd say our first meetings or second meetings. I barely ever talk about this with our clients, but we are categorizing you in these stages silently, just for our advice to you. And if you are a drudgery, our job is to try to quickly move you out of drudgery with purpose and excellence of where you're uniquely gifted. If you're in making a living, it's to gently challenge you on saying there could be more here that you could be reaching out to. There could be more people that you could be impacting, maybe not. And if you're okay with just sitting there, that's great. But are you just kind of being complacent? And then the third bricklayer not only is attractive, but then I'm going to challenge you to start pouring into other people. I'm going to start challenging you to start being more efficient in your business. And anyway, so those are kind of the story in a nutshell. I hope it was helpful for you.
Totally.
It's helpful for me in my mindset. There's facets of my job every day that I'm like, man, I don't know if I love that. But to have a different mindset about it is powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think then the financial decisions that you're making based on which bricklayer you're at or which seat you're at, and each bricklayer has different stages, right?
Yep.
And I think, so without going any deeper, but do you have the people in your life that can give you the advice based on where you're at? And I think that's really what is important. And we meet with a lot of people that meet with advisors, and it's just such a one-dimensional planning style of here's the 6 products I have. You're either going to fit into those or you're not. I'm going on to the next person. And so if you do want to be that third bricklayer, the advice and customization that's involved in building a financial plan for those people is a lot different than just putting you into a couple boxes or a couple products. And so I think that's just that level of wisdom that I guess we can bring to the table of really be intentional with your money and who you're taking advice from.
So if you want a little bit of help trying to figure out where you're at, we'd love to have a talk with you. Let's set up a 15-minute free consultation, kind of walk through your specific situation, and then see where you're going. But one thing's for sure, no matter what bricklayer you are, there's ways that you can improve, and there's always ways to be better. And to surround yourself with those people is powerful. And so traditional advising, I do think, could keep the first and second bricklayer where they're at and suffocate them. And then even the third layer, the traditional advising, it's just not really challenging you. Just keep going, be complacent. But that's never our option. You are your best asset. Let's figure out ways to improve yourself and your situation. So this is what we do every day. Ta-da.
Yeah.
We would love
if you like this illustration, it's in our book. So look for that. And like Phillip said, you can schedule a 15-minute call through our website, www.uncommonwealth.com. That's how you reach us.
That's awesome. Well, you've been listening to the Uncommon Life Project. I've been your host, Phillip Ramsey.
And I am Brian Dewhurst.
Thanks for tuning in, and tune in next time for another episode. Thanks.
Go be uncommon. Thanks.
Bye.
That's all for this episode of the Uncommon Life Project, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.